host, Melisa Kennedy, and on this show, you never know what we're going to talk about. Yes, we're going to stir the pot again this week because that's what we do on this show. We're uncensored, unbiased, and we are unscripted. So everything I say and everything that Kevin and Edgar says is completely unscripted. It's off the cuff, so you just really don't know what's going to happen, which makes it exciting. So with that said, I'm going to actually go back a couple of episodes ago when I was talking about some ancient drawings and some ancient pictures and depictions of UFOs. One of our viewers, which I'm so grateful for, actually pointed out that the picture that I showed is Japanese. So thank you so much to that viewer for letting us know that that is Japanese, and so I'm so grateful for that information. And as always, anytime that you, the viewer, has some information like this to share with us, please make sure you do, because I do listen and we do make sure that we convey that in a future episode. So that was a mistake that I made a couple weeks ago, so I do apologize for that. And speaking of mistakes, I think I'm going to kind of roll into one of the topics that we've been talking about for weeks now, and that is perceived reality. What is it? How did we get here? And how do we get out of it? Well, I'm going to go to where life begins, and that is we all come into this world as a baby. And as a baby, we have no misconceptions of anything. We are coming into this world with no prior knowledge. And the knowledge that we gather is that of our parents. And that's a good thing, or at least we think it is. And what I mean by that is, as a child, we are formed, and our reality is shaped by everything that's around us. And that can be everything from what's in the home to what's outside of the home. And as we get a little bit older, we start to go to school. Well, many of you know that I was a former school teacher. And I was part of that system of educating the children. Well, what exactly is that? Well, that is teaching and forming a collective consciousness of information. Now, I got into teaching because I wanted to use my creative side to teach children. But as the process continued in our school system to narrow the narrative of what I was allowed to teach, I had to follow the standardized form of curriculum, thus taking away any creative side that I had because I had to follow the agenda. And what I mean by that, folks, is this. Those that are in control, the few at the top, control the narrative. They control the media, all the media, except for us here at We Beam TV, of course, because we're uncensored. And they control the information. What gets leaked, what doesn't get leaked, how it gets leaked, how it's said, how it's presented, and how you as the public perceives that information. It is all controlled from the time that we are little children all the way up into adulthood. And if you don't think that's true, let me just push the envelope for just a minute. I like to say that this is called a postage stamp reality, because we're all taught to believe the narrative that those at the top, and it's not the ones that you're thinking that it is, not the ones that are out in front. No, it's not the politicians that you think it is. It's actually the ones that are behind the politicians, the ones in the dark, the ones in the shadows, the deep state, the cabal, whatever you want to call it. Those are the ones that are in power. So whether you're, I love Trump, I hate Trump, it doesn't matter, because that's just a facade that is controlling and speaking the narrative. And that's the one that we need to be concerned about, is the ones at the top that's actually controlling the information. So when I get asked all the time, Melisa, why don't we know about UFOs? Why aren't we being told this stuff? It's because the narrative is being controlled for other purposes, hence the postage stamp reality. We are told as children when we go to school to not ask questions. We go to church, we go to school, we sit there, hands are folded. Don't ask any questions. Just listen, and then there'll be a test at the end of the week to test your knowledge to see if you actually bought into the system, to see if you actually believed the narrative. And if you don't, well, then you fail, and then you have to go on. If you're one of those kids, and as a school teacher I can attest to this, if you're one of those kids that actually questions what's being told to you, what happens? You're labeled a troublemaker. Oh, Mrs. Smith, yeah, Billy, he's creating a lot of problems in school today. He's asking a lot of questions. That's what we do as a society. We actually label these people as troublemakers. Why? Because they jump off the postage stamp reality. Call us conspiracy theorists. Call us crazy. Call us troublemakers. Whatever label that society wants to throw at us because we don't fit the postage stamp reality, that's what happens. And now is the time for us to stop with the postage stamp reality. We need to step out of the narrow box that I keep talking about for weeks and weeks and weeks now. This perceived reality is what's being told for us to believe. Okay? It's called 3 things: problem, reaction, solution. The problem is they want to control the narrative. They want to control how we think. That's the problem. So how are they going to fix it? You got to be smarter than the problem. My mom says this all the time to me. Melisa, be smarter than the problem. Yes, Mom, you're right. Hope you're listening. Problem is, how do we control the minds of the masses? Well, that's the problem. What's the reaction? Well, you create a scenario where the public is like panicking. What are we going to do? Protect us, save us, help us now. That's the reaction. And in come the guys in control on their little white horses to save the day from us being destroyed. Case in point, 9/11. What happened? 9/11 happened. It was a problem. We all perceived the reality to be a terrorist attack on America. That was the problem. Reaction. We're getting attacked by the terrorists. What are we going to do? Save us. Help us. What was the solution? They take our freedoms away. If you don't think that's true, go to an airport and see what happens. When I grew up, and I'm pretty sure my 2 co-stars here would agree to me, when we grew up, when we would go to the airport, were we patted down and gone through all these securities and were all these liberties taken away? No. We went through with the freedoms that we had, which after 9/11 was all taken away. Yep. Now, fast forward to today. What's happening? Well, today we have these little guys, these beautiful little cell phones, which are great, by the way, no big deal. But what's awesome is, the problem is they need to control our minds even more. Think of artificial intelligence, AI for short. What happens? We're all looking at our cell phones, our heads are down here, kind of not paying any attention to what's going on around us, not being human, really. We're not communicating. We're not holding hands. We're not giving hugs. We're not giving kisses. We're not being human. We're being robotic because our heads and our focus is down here, right? So we're being controlled because what's here is what we're perceiving as reality, which is it? Is it really reality, or is it just what's being fed to us? And then you add this little device which dehumanizes us. Then you put one of these little guys on. Yes, I am going to go there. Now you can't see Melisa smiling at you. And now she's doing this. Where's the human aspect? Where's the human aspect? We've now become desensitized, dehumanized, and in their control. So I want to end my little soapbox here with a picture. Actually, 2 pictures. This was me as a young girl in elementary school. Happy, free thinking. Nobody was telling me what to wear, what to do, what to think, as much as they are today. And then this is my daughter over here. And She was actually born 2 weeks prior to 9/11. My reality, my childhood, was way different than her childhood. And so I ask you, what kind of world do you want for your children and your grandchildren? Do you want a world where they can think? Do you want a world where they have free will? Do you want a world where they can think outside the box, think outside the postage stamp? Or do you want one where we're all like this and we don't smile, because you can't see our smiles because we're like this, and our faces and our eyes are completely staring at a screen and we have no clue what's going on around us because that narrative is being shoved in our faces and we're unaware of the world around us. So with that said, I would like to have my two co-hosts join me in thinking about how we can change the narrative. How can we call upon our universal consciousness, and how can we bring forth the truth and not what's being forced upon us through the media and through the few that are at the top controlling everything from social media, because if you don't follow the narrative, they censor you. If you use a particular hashtag, they censor you. If you have a video or if you have a post, it's deleted. Why? Because it doesn't fit their narrative. So the only thing that's really missing in 2020 is a UFO invasion. So create a problem. Oh my gosh, the UFOs, the aliens are here to get us. Everybody panics. That's the reaction. And so the solution, therefore, would be a space war. Think about it. Problem, reaction, solution.
All for control.
All for control. So, who wants to chime in with me first? Because this is really a fight for humanity and a fight for what our collective consciousness has the power to do, and how we can join forces with our intergalactic families to bring forth a new light, a new world, a new reality, and get away from this reality, which is completely dehumanizing our world.
That was a great opening statement.
Thank you, Kevin.
I didn't know. We don't know what you're going to say because it's totally unscripted.
They never know what I'm going to do.
But that just falls into line with some information I've been given by my ET guides this week, both in a dream, and dreams are a modality of contact, and also in a download. And I wrote the download down and I date them when I get them. But it just ties in with exactly what you're saying, even to the point of your own reality, your perceived reality. From a childhood, I was in contact with two of my ET guides, and then more of them when I got to 14, and I've been in contact with them all my life.
Right.
So that's my reality.
That's your reality. But see, if it's not fitting the narrative, what do you get labeled as?
Well, obviously a conspiracy theory, or you don't talk about it.
You hide it.
As I didn't talk about it, except to my brother and my wife. And I wouldn't have spoken out if Orton D, two of my ET guides, hadn't have materialized in my bedroom a few years ago and asked me to write the book, The Spiritual Consciousness, A Personal Journey. And they said I would write 2 books. The second one's over there that
we're all 3 of us
put
did
together.
Right.
So my reality is different to others because I haven't been closed down. My ET guides kept that reality open and shared more information.
It hasn't been taught out of you, in other words. And see, that's just it. As a school teacher, I really didn't want to teach that out of the kids, but I was forced to. I was forced to teach the objective. In fact, I was forced to write the objective on the board because that's what we were told to do from the higher ups. You couldn't deter from the narrative, from the agenda. In fact, here's a great example. The other day, I also teach piano lessons. So one of my students the other day actually embellished a song that he was learning, added some chords and whatnot. And as soon as he did it, he looked at me, Miss Melisa, am I in trouble because I changed the song? No! No, I think it's fantastic that you changed the song, that you were creative. See, this is the problem. We have become a society that if you step outside the postage stamp, you're, oh, there he goes, there she goes. She is falling off the bandwagon. She's a conspiracy theorist. She's crazy. You know, let's label her real quick because she's not thinking like the rest of us. And what's happening is we're actually policing ourselves. We, the people, we, the humans, are actually now policing the narrative. And that's the problem. Yeah, we have the police and all the forces out there that are enforcing the agenda, but now humans are policing other humans on social media. You know, if you don't agree, I like to call them the correctaholics. If you don't agree with what they're saying, oh, here we go. We're going to just defame you, call you a conspiracy, call you this, call you that. Crazy lady, I've been called that quite a few times. Am I crazy because I don't believe your agenda? Am I crazy because I'm not in that little postage stamp reality? No. No. My whole life I've challenged everything. I don't work 9 to 5. I never have fit that 9 to 5 mold. I never will. I've questioned every single thing that's ever been told because I do think outside the box, and I'm not going to be shoved into this little tiny postage stamp. And I think the three of us are the same.
I was fortunate in the respect that I went through the normal schooling systems as we did, although it was in the UK. But I had my two ET guides who were my educators.
See?
They were my teachers.
Right.
They showed me things that we're not taught.
Right.
Now, I have these abilities that we all have if we learn how to use them.
Right. But your ET guides weren't part of the agenda.
No, they weren't. And that's why I can communicate with them. I can ask them to show themselves. That's why they give me downloads, they give me dreams.
Yeah.
Many modalities of contact. And there are more and more experiences speaking out now because
Right.
we've been asked to, because we're in this pivotal moment in our
really are.
society, which is changing.
Right.
And we can go two ways.
Oh, we can go two ways. We can go the non-human way, or we can go the human way, where you can see my face, and we can hug each other, and we can hold hands, and we can be loving beings.
And wouldn't it be better in this position we're in now to co-create a new society?
Yes.
With the ETs?
Break away. So what you're saying is the Matrix, we can break away from the Matrix, correct?
That's correct.
And there's a great little video clip I think I have of the Matrix, and I kind of like to look at that for a second because the Matrix can just kind of be blown up, if you want to think of it that way, and create this new reality, which we've been talking about for the last couple weeks, and create the kind of universe that we want to create with the help of our intergalactic friends. So do you guys think that maybe that's a possibility, that there's going to be some fake alien invasion here soon? Because I mean, it's the only thing that's missing in 2020.
And that's the narrative. Even David Icke talked about that
Yes.
in his last episode that
I
he
love that
broadcast
guy.
on Gaia.
Yes.
And he talked about exactly what happened with 9/11, that there was papers written a year before to control the narrative, to take away the rest of our constitutional rights with the Patriot Act.
Exactly.
And that was all done by a consortium of George Bush and several other people that brought this. And then when the towers came down, George Bush did not look that concerned. He goes, oh, and they whisked him out of a classroom down here in Florida when he was reading to some kindergartners.
Exactly. And so again, you create a problem, you wait for the public's reaction, and then you ride in on your little white horse with a solution. And so that's happening now, you know, with all these health concerns. And I'm waiting for the UFO invasion because they'll play it up on the media. Oh my gosh, they're here to kill us, you know, and everybody's going to believe it. Those that are sheeple and want to believe it, they're going to believe it. Those of us that know any better, we won't believe it. But the aliens are coming, so that's the problem. That's what they'll say. And then they're going to say, well, protect us. Well, they'll probably say stay in your house because they don't want any of us together to collectively talk and communicate. So they'll probably shove us in our houses or in a bunker or somewhere, some warehouse somewhere. And then the solution will be, well, we're here to save Earth because the invasion of the aliens.
It's funny
Right?
you should mention that, because I had, and again, I don't know what you were going to talk about today.
Kevin never knows what I'm going to talk about.
I have a dream that I've had 3 times in my life, and that particular dream, experiencers have that dream. I understand that from Dr. Joseph Briggs.
Right.
He's part of the Conscious Research Institute and also part of FREE. And he said that the experiencers like myself share this dream where we see globally craft appearing over major cities.
And I've had that same dream, by the way.
You've had that dream?
Oh, yes, I have.
See.
Yes.
And I've had it 3 times. And when I read his post, I think I made a comment. I was in New York at the time on a short weekend vacation for my wife's birthday. And I put the phone down and I looked out of the window between 2 skyscrapers over Central Park, and 15 craft appeared. They formed a pattern, they disappeared, they reappeared and formed another pattern. That was really confirmation for Dr. Joseph Burke's post, and more confirmation for me in relation to these craft that are going to be seen in association with the dream. Well, I had the same dream again this week. I think it was Monday. And what happened in the dream was the same up until it got near the end, and then the narrative in the dream changed by the ETs. And what it showed was these craft actually shooting our craft out of the sky.
Oh.
And exactly. And I'm thinking, that's not right. They're not here to invade us. They're here to help and assist with our evolution. I know that. They've taught me that over 57, 58 years. So I was surprised at that. So I asked them a question. Could they explain why that dream ended in that particular way? And they gave me the answer, but I wrote it down because it was given as a download.
Okay.
I have it with me if we've
Yes,
got
go
time
ahead
to
and
read
read
it
it.
out.
That's great.
So I always date them when I get these downloads, and this was 8/5/2020, so whatever day that was. They said to me, after I'd questioned this dream, they said, we are in a global war for control of planet Earth and its people. There will be a false flag, alien invasion, whereby craft will be shown globally over major cities. These craft will then appear to shoot down the aircraft. But this is a simulation by your military using directed energy weapons, microwave weapons and cold fusion weapons. These have an ability to vaporize buildings and people virtually into dust. These have a blue signature to them. Your people are not aware you have these weapons and will lay the blame on the false flag ETs, further controlling the people by fear. Now, what a coincidence that is.
Right.
It's not a
now,
coincidence.
it's not a coincidence. And
Because
here's the thing. I got to re-emphasize this to our audience. We are unscripted. Okay, literally, Kevin did not know what it was we were going to talk about today. So this download, this is the first time I've heard about this download. We are not communicating about this kind of stuff. Literally, I just heard it for the first time, just like you, the audience. So that is confirmation that what I just said at the beginning of the show, create the problem, have the public reaction, then the solution is implemented. And that's exactly what I'm afraid is going to happen, is that there's going to be a fake UFO invasion to scare the public into the forced narrative, the forced agenda of all of the ETs are bad, therefore we must kill them all. They aren't bad. If they were, we would already know about that and probably wouldn't even be sitting here right now. And that's very concerning to me because we're seeing it happen over and over in history. We're right in the middle of it right now. And I'm probably pretty confident some of this will get censored out. Probably won't be on some of the social media because they'll probably delay it or have it scrubbed, which has happened before. And, we've seen that numerous times in social media. A lot of videos that get out there that they don't want all of a sudden disappear. We've seen that with lots of cases. But, what do you think about this, Edgar? Because, we've talked about this, the three of us. We've talked about the collective consciousness. What can we do to stop this from happening? And it gets to the point, and it may already be too late, but to get to the point where we can actually change this reality.
Well, you know, the forest fires and stuff in California was all directed energy weapons. The houses were disintegrated into dust, and the trees were still left standing. And there's firemen out there in California that made statements to that effect. There was also a sheriff's deputy. It was up in one of the helicopters that almost got hit by one of those directed laser weapons.
And I'm really concerned about this because I'm starting to see a trend in our society that they're believing more and more of the fake news. They're believing more and more in this narrative agenda, and they're just the sheep following the sheep. And it's getting so ridiculous. Case in point, you know, the whole cash shortage, you know, the coin shortage and all this other stuff. I had a lady from IBM on this show back January, February, and who actually admitted that we are going to go to a cashless society within 2 years. If you haven't watched that episode, watch it because it should light a fire under you. And, you know, you might think, well, Melisa, what's the big deal? What's the harm? Just go along with it. Well, I've been hearing that a lot lately. Just go along with it. Just do what you're told. Don't ask questions. Do what you're told. Don't be one of those people, you know. But here's a real instance I want to bring up. You know how now if you go to the grocery store, you go to any store, and you put your credit card in, well, maybe you forgot to pay your bill, or maybe there's a glitch in the system and it actually rejects your payment. Well, then you can reach inside your pocket and pull out a dollar bill to pay for that. What happens when the cash goes away? What happens when the cash goes away and you don't have another option to pay for those items, the food for your family? What happens when the cash goes away and you don't have a means to pay for the food for your family? You're relying on a microchip. You're relying on a piece of plastic, or worse yet, a microchip in your hand that now controls every bodily function that you have. What happens if you are, I don't know, labeled, and they don't want you to eat that day? They don't want your family to eat today. You have no other form of payment but the microchip credit card. That's where we're heading. And, you know, it's happening. And if we think it's not happening, just go out right now and figure it out for yourself and see what we're saying. More and more are going to the digital form of money. And who's to say the little person back there in the back in the dark is controlling who eats, who doesn't, who lives, who doesn't? It's all about control. Hence the phones, hence the masks, hence the coins, hence the narrative. They don't want us to know about our ET families, because if we know about them, then we have hope. Then we have an alternative. We have a choice. And that's where they're wanting to control us. Take the freedom away, take the choice away. You have nothing but this. And we no longer become thinkers. We become compliers. We become robots. And we're no longer human. And I don't think our ETs want that. Now, some might, because as all things, there's good and bad. All things are good and bad. But our good ETs, which is the ones we've always talked about on the show, they don't want that for us because they've already seen what happens. Time and space don't exist. We've talked about that on the show. So what do we do other than what we're doing right now, trying to put it out there into the public? Yeah, there's going to be haters. Haters are going to hate. That's the way it is. But the ones that know what we're saying is true, hopefully you will share what we're saying. Share this link, share the show with your friends, have people watch it, and hopefully they'll get awakened to what's really going on, and that is controlling the narrative, controlling the public, controlling the outcomes.
Well,
yeah, I'm on my soapbox today. Hey, somebody has to be. If I don't stand up and say something, nobody's going to say anything. We're just going to keep being sheeple, and we have to start speaking out.
Well, we're at the point now where we're no better than the 3 Terminator movies. In fact, they do now, and they have recovered a metal that's similar to what that one robot that Arnold Schwarzenegger had to destroy that had the liquid metal. You could take and you could split it, and then he would go right back to being the robot that he was. And there is such a thing as Skynet. Skynet exists. This is no longer science fiction, folks. This is real stuff that's happening, and it's not rocket science if you pay attention and do a little bit of research. I'm not the smartest cookie on the planet, but if I can find this stuff, most of the rest of y'all can find it as well.
Exactly, and I agree wholeheartedly with Edgar there, because this information is available. Now, it's getting harder and harder to find because it's being more and more censored. Hence the reason why you want to watch WeBeam TV and want to watch the UFO Woman show, because we aren't censored. We will never be censored, because we are here to actually tell you the truth of what's going on. Unbiased, unpolitical, unreligious. We don't have any of those kind of connotations because we don't do that stuff here. Which kind of brings me to another point that I want to make, and we touched on this last week. I kind of opened up the cookie jar last week with this introduction, and I think now's a good time for us to bring this up. We are forming an organization, a nonprofit organization that's called UFO Hunters of America. And this is exactly the principles that we stand for, and that is pushing the envelope of disclosure, pushing the envelope of finding the truth about UFOs, paranormal, experiencer, and universal consciousness. And this is our mission statement for the nonprofit organization. So here's a nice picture of all of our board of directors. We have Dave Spanks, we have Natalie Jones, this is across the top, Angie Ittman, Barry Gaunt, Terry Lovelace. Next row, of course, Kevin Briggs here, John Gaston, who's our producer here at WeBeam TV, Susan Shasser, and we've got, of course, Edgar here on the show, and then we have Sandy Briggs, and then me. And UFOHuntersofAmerica.org is up and running. We are still in the preliminary stages, aren't we, Kevin?
Yep.
But we are up. Our website is live, and we are going to be talking about all of these points, all of these dots, and how they are all connected. We are bringing this into modern day. Okay, we are not looking at just one aspect of something. We're looking at all the aspects of our universe and how it relates to humankind, and that's what makes us different from everybody else. UFO Hunters of America is different. We are going to be revolutionary, and I am so grateful to have the two of you really be the pioneers with me on this. When I had the vision a year ago, it wasn't the right time, didn't have the right people around me, but now's the time. Now is definitely the time to pull this thing forward and push it forward for humanity. And, one of the things that I think is so important is tapping into that universal consciousness, tapping into our ET guides that are here to help us, not hurt us. You heard it here first, because I really do strongly believe that something's about to happen in a red flag, false flag scenario where a UFO invasion is going to be faked. And the narrative of, protect us from the aliens, because that's really, what I think would happen in order to push that.
And I think this has been spoken
forward.
About for many years. Von Braun first brought it to our attention.
Right.
And then his assistant, Caroline Rosin, I think, she still speaks about it. But it's the first time that they've mentioned it to me, my ET guides.
Yeah.
So clearly they're aware of what's going on. They are monitoring what we're doing. And they are here to assist. They are here to help us, both evolutionally and society as well. So it's a great time for humanity, I'm sure.
It is.
But there's always a rocky road before things change.
Right. Well, it's kind of like a snake shedding his skin, has to kind of go through a whole process before the new is born again. And I think that's the rough patch that we're going through right now. And hopefully there's enough of us that actually see what's going on, and we aren't believing the narrative that's being shoved down our throats. I mean, I'm seeing kids and adults alike believing this narrative, and I'm really worried. I'm very concerned that if it continues, that we're going to be at a point of no return. And I think we're right at that tipping point of where we can make a change and we can become the new reality and get back to the way we all grew up Yeah, there was still forced narrative back then. Yes,
and we
there
must
is.
remember that we have the ability to create our own reality
Right.
using thought, using consciousness. Thought is an energy, consciousness is an energy.
And it's all energy, isn't it?
We create it.
Right.
And once you understand that, then I'm working towards creating my reality where the ETs come down, reveal themselves, and interact with us on an open basis.
It's a beautiful thing.
That's going to be my reality. And then they will share their technologies. I think we mentioned last week they're concerned about Fukushima, and they can help us with that technology to help clean up the radioactive radiation surrounding Fukushima, and that's affecting all the people there, that's spreading across the
But the question
Pacific.
is the powers that be going to listen? See, that's the question.
That is the question.
Majority of it's controlled by the cabal.
Yeah.
And they want to keep the narrative away from those of us that can use it for the good things, not for the bad things.
Right, and that's the big push here, is for the good.
They want a perpetual war for their military-industrial complex, and Paul Hellyer talked about that in February in his speech about what happened, and he brought forth some documents and stuff that I had not heard about, but Paul Hellyer, being almost 97 years old, would know these things because he was all part of it.
Right. Well, that's a good point. I mean, there are people out there that do know what's going on if you just listen. And you know, the ones that want to try to debunk us are going to call us every name in the book, because that's the only attack that they have, is to try to discredit us so that we go away. Well, we're not going away. We're still here. I don't know. I'm really concerned, to be honest.
I know it sounds like doom and gloom what we're talking about at the moment.
It is and it is. It's reality.
It is at the moment. It's our reality.
It is our
shared
reality.
reality, yes, and we're all affected by it.
Right.
But as I say, the ETs are here, and there are more people than there are politicians or the small 1% that rule the planet, and we collectively, conscious collectiveness can create that new reality.
So if enough of us think of this new reality, this better reality, one of love, one of peace, then we can hopefully help that spread.
That's right.
To
And
others.
I'm in contact with many on the spiritual side understand this, because spirituality incorporates not only our deceased family members, because they're only the physical that dies, but the ETs. I know there are groups globally now contacting the ETs using the C5 protocols, and there are tens of thousands of people doing that. That's raising that vibrational frequency of consciousness. So it's not all doom and gloom.
No.
Many working towards it.
But it has to be pointed out, because if it's not pointed out, people don't see it for what it is.
That's true.
They're too busy looking like this all the time.
That's true.
And if that's all we ever look at, we're never going to broaden our reality.
No.
Our reality is that postage stamp again, and we're here to broaden the reality to the whole universe. And the universe is a lovely thing. And I've talked about how wonderful I think it is to have family that's outside of Earth, because, you know, I'm an only child, so for me that sounds really cool to have brothers and sisters, because I didn't have brothers and sisters growing up. And I think that's a beautiful thing. I don't think it's a scary thing. No. I think it's a nice thing.
Well, I think with Orton D, they tell me I'm part of their extended family, which is great. And as extended families do here, they teach their siblings, and they've been teaching me, although in a different method, different modalities of contact. But yes, again, going back to what you said earlier about the perceived reality, I spoke with my brother yesterday, and in our book here, the second book, we mentioned about the dragonfly.
Oh, the dragonflies,
that saved from some netting, and then they connected with me and followed me everywhere I went, and I relayed that story to my brother who lives in Spain, and he was saying about these beautiful butterflies that are flying around. I said, well, why don't you ask them to come and land on your hand? And he's very skeptical, because he's like Edgar, he's an engineer, aircraft engineer. You know, if you want your helicopter fixing, or your private jet or whatever, or your commercial airline, he's your man. So he doesn't know much about the butterflies. So I said to him, about the consciousness really, but he's learning so much now, it's unbelievable. He's opened his mind to it, and the information's coming in.
Okay.
So he went out one day and he practiced it. He was very skeptical, and he saw a butterfly flying past, and he said, "Oh, you're a beautiful butterfly. Can you come and land on my hand so I can see the colours?"
A butterfly landed on his hand?
Well, what happened? The butterfly, as he said this to the butterfly, it flew past. It went
oh,
down.
there it is. There's the picture.
It went out of sight. It came back, and then it landed on his hand. He now can. I phoned him yesterday, and he said, "Oh, Kevin, I'll go out and show you how to do it now." He says, because he does it all the time now. And yesterday, that was a photograph from yesterday, and he said, "I'll go outside and attract them." So he went outside. He asked a butterfly to come and land on his hand. That was the photograph. That's the Mediterranean Sea from his balcony, and. But then he said to the butterfly, "I see you've got friends flying around here. Can you come and ask your friends to come and land on me?" So that butterfly flew off. 2 came back. One landed on his hand and one landed on his head. So he's got further communication. And now so he's extended his own reality by using thought and consciousness, because we're all connected. Now, if I hadn't have shared the story about the dragonfly and then asked him to ask the butterfly to land on his hand, he wouldn't have tried it. He was taught something new outside of his reality.
Outside of the reality.
And I use those same communication contact modalities to speak to the ETs. I use thought, I use consciousness. They're just energy. They're just like signals going out and signals coming back. And once you learn how to do that, all the ETs just use telepathic communication. They do not speak because they've developed beyond speech. I'm sure we can do that. That will be in our future.
I'm starting to think we already have. You two with your little blue shirts. They don't even talk. Before the show, they just match. Every week, they seem to match. And then your download. I had no idea about your download the other day. Was about the reality. And what did I open the show up with? Reality.
But now my brother's say it's reality, and he's so happy. He's got that connection to the. I said,
nature.
I said, what would you rather do, Michael? Go out onto your balcony and look at the Mediterranean and track the butterflies, or go and watch mainstream media news? And he said, out on the balcony with the butterflies.
I love that. Get away from the TVs and the media stuff, and it's so negative. I mean, it's like you got to get away from it.
But
and get out into nature, right?
It is back to nature.
Back
and the
to
connection
nature.
we have with nature.
Yes.
And it's not just, I mean, the butterflies and the dragonflies are part of the elemental realm.
Right.
But they still have consciousness.
They're still
There's
conscious,
still shared
there's still
consciousness,
energy.
still communication there.
Right.
If you know how to, we don't have to know how to do it. You just have to try it.
Right.
That's the thing.
Right.
And, okay, you've got to show them love and that you're interested in them.
Yeah,
and,
just like anything else.
Anything else, and they'll be attracted
People?
to you. Yeah, people. Yeah.
People, and that's the thing that I'm so sad about, is I feel like we're getting away from being connected to one another.
We're losing our connection to Mother Nature with the destruction of the landmass.
Yes,
We
and
can't
5G.
We can't keep destroying the landmass and keep putting up satellites 400 miles above the our Earth's surface, all for AI communication. If they get their way, they will have a cell tower every 550 feet because the high frequencies can't penetrate the walls and stuff. So when you start putting that much electromagnetic radiation out into the planet, now it's going to affect brain cells. It's going to affect how babies develop, and there
hasn't been any testing on this, really, has there?
No testing done on this whatsoever. We already know that it does cause cancer in animals that's in fields where they've put cell towers, and they graze there 24/7.
Well, let me interject this for a second, Edgar. You know, we have the 4G now, and people see these commercials and whatnot for 5G. Well, the normal Joe on the street is like, well, that's just one number up. It's just 4 to 5G. So what's the big deal? Why are you guys complaining? It's really way more than just going from 4 to 5. Can you explain that?
It's like the earthquakes. It's on a scale of 10. For every number in the Richter scale, it's 10 times worse than the number before it. And this 5G is going to be the most devastating. In fact, they're now wanting to start to invade our brains using this integrated chip that Elon Musk was talking about.
Exactly, exactly. And this is the scary stuff I'm trying to point out here. Do your research. Do what we're saying as far as learning the truth about all of this and where this agenda is leading us as a society. We're becoming less and less human and more robotic and tunnel vision. I mean, pretty soon the creativity is going to be completely gone, because creativity, what's the definition of creativity? It's basically thinking outside the box, creating something new, creating a new reality. That's trying to be beaten out of us because we are told, well, just follow the rules. I don't understand what the big deal is, Melisa. Why can't you just do what everybody else is doing? You know, do what you're told, don't question. Well, we have to be smarter than the problem, and the problem is we're being controlled. We're controlled in the information that we're given. We're controlled in the perception that we're told to have as a postage stamp. And the solution is what the three of us have been saying for weeks now, and that is create our new reality through the universal consciousness. We all have the ability. It's not something special and unique to the three of us. We all have it. And we have to tap into that so that we can create this new reality with our intergalactic families.
You have to tap into the universal consciousness, and we've all been given universal consciousness, but it's like Melisa's saying, it's being taught out of us.
It's being taught out.
And that's why they're putting fluoride in the water, and that's why the foods are being genetically modified so that we can no longer think for ourselves. And they want us to rely on them, not on ourselves, and maintain our planet in a pristine order. Because when this 5G completely rolls out and they implement this in the next 2 to 5 years, this planet will be completely devastated. Then what are we going to eat? We're going to be robots.
Well, we already kind of are getting that way, aren't we? When all you can see is just this much of your face, and that part of the face is looking down in a screen, we're really not even human anymore. We're really becoming more and more robotic. And
I've got a question for Edgar.
Yeah.
I like putting him on the spot, you know.
We all do.
When you were in the military, did you work on 5G? Did they have it then, or was it similar electronic devices that you worked on?
In the military, they were working with interface, brain interface to aircraft and such. And they were working on that at Wright-Patterson. In fact, that was actually released by the Air Force back in the late 80s, early 90s, that they were working on that technology.
But you haven't seen the weaponized microwaves or 5G used as a weapon itself or anything like that?
They were working on that. That was all stuff that was completely covered up. It's just now starting to come out with what's happening in California the last couple of years. And it was to bring people to actually break them to their knees, and so that they could put them into basically a commune type community, and burn out their little towns and cities and what have you.
So do you know anything about the cold fusion devices that my AT's mentioned here? My understanding from what they've told me in the past is the fact that it's a nuclear weapon without the radiation,
yep,
but it can turn everything to dust.
Yes.
And it's called cold fusion. I don't know anything about it because I'm not a scientist. That's just information I've been given.
That's all the stuff that they've reverse engineered and stuff out in S4, Groom Lake, and 5 other research bases.
Now, don't they also do some reverse technology on UFOs there as well?
Yes.
Right.
So
Bob Lazar talked about that, and so did several others.
Yeah, full circle.
It's gone full circle.
Yeah, I mean, all these dots are connected. If you just look at it, it really all is. It doesn't seem like it is because we are all led to believe that, oh, the government's not going to hurt us. They love us. They want the best for us. It's really, it's control, and it's not just the control and the way that, march in a straight line kind of thing, but really the control of information. And that's why I think we have been misled for so many years, 75 years or so, and not told the truth about UFOs, not told the truth about intergalactics, because that's a threat to the narrative.
President Truman had a document written up to that effect to keep us in the dark. And by the time Dwight D. Eisenhower, in his final speech before Kennedy took presidency in 1960, mentioned about be aware of the military-industrial complex. And he strongly said that, and so many people missed the total point, that now here it is 70 years later, and in Dwight Eisenhower's case, 1959, that was only 61 years later, that we're now starting to understand what the complexity of that one single statement was.
Exactly. And that was a profound statement.
And the information is out there. If people do their own research, they don't have to take our word for it.
Yeah, don't have to take our word for it, right.
I remember watching a few reports from Dr. Judy Wood. She's a forensic engineer, and she did her own study on the Twin Towers.
Yes.
And she didn't put any blame anywhere or anything. She just dissects it as a forensic engineer. But on one of the films, she shows that as one of the girders is falling down from the Twin Tower, it just turns to dust. And I suspect that's probably one of these directed energy weapons that was used.
Well, right, and you were talking about the holographic images.
Her information is out there.
Right, her information is out there.
We're not saying anything that's not already out there.
No, we're not groundbreaking
we're not
on that.
Conspiracy theorists. We are just sharing the information that we have.
Exactly, we're sharing information from what we've read and what we've heard. But going to your download just a second, because we've got a few minutes here before the show's over. Going back to your download, Kevin, this is interesting because this is the first time we've even talked about it. The whole holographic aspect of creating a fake UFO invasion. Oh, that's very much a reality. And in fact, I believe there's even some, examples of holographic realities out there that has already been done to control the narrative.
Yep.
Yeah.
I saw one which was quite interesting. But again, you don't know what's true these days in what you're seeing on the social media.
Yeah, you can't believe anything.
You haven't got a clue, but it was a beautiful piece of artwork, shall we say, and it showed a whale coming up out of a gym floor, and all the children were sat around the gym.
Wow.
And then it splashed down, and all the water splashed up, and it looked so real. The children went back. Now, whether it's real or not, obviously it's a projected holographic reality, I think.
Right.
Whether it's true or not, I don't know. But I've seen that 2 or 3 times, and there are others now. So I suspect we do have these technologies.
Oh, sure.
We're just not aware of them.
So what if you were to put a holographic image of some UFOs invading New York City or Washington, D.C.?
And then have that hologram shoot a plane down, which is a hologram in itself as well. So 2 holograms having a fight in the air about ETs and us.
Right.
Well, it frightened us to death. It frightened me to death if I was stood
exactly.
there.
But
if it's holographic, what's the difference then between...
And you can take pictures of the holograms too.
Well, yes, I'm sure if you record it, our experts will be able to decipher whether it's a hologram or not. I don't know. But,
my gosh, that's some food for thought.
I'm just throwing it out there, just.
Oh yeah, no, it. Hey, who knows? In a short period of time, we might be proven right. That we all said this. What is today's date?
No, I don't know what
August
today's date is.
What is today?
August 8th. Is it? Okay.
Okay, August 8th. We're all saying that we believe that there's going to be a fake UFO
they didn't give me a
invasion.
date or anything for it, and I say Von Braun mentioned this in the 60s, and then Carol Roslin, she'd...
I don't think it's that far-fetched whatsoever.
No. But it's just strange that they mentioned it to me now.
Oh, right.
In fact, I was when I woke up, it was completely against the narrative that they'd given me all my life.
This is so different.
And I'm thinking...
Well, they probably knew what I was going to say today.
Well, maybe. I'm sure. So
I'm not putting anything past
so that's
anything.
when I asked them to explain
Right.
it, and they gave me that download.
Absolutely.
And then I was happy again. I was happy
Right.
chappy again then.
Exactly. Well, again, we're talking about the universal consciousness, talking about the matrix, talking about perceived reality. It all is interrelated. We're connecting all the dots, and we're actually putting forth a brand new nonprofit organization. It's called UFO Hunters of America. .org is the website. If you would like to go get some more information, we're on all the social media. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, and we're on Instagram, UFO Hunters of America. So if you want to get some more information about that and how we are going to make a difference and push this information forward, if you're interested in becoming a founding member, we have that information up on the website right now as well. So a lot of information. Kevin, myself, and Edgar were three of the board members, as well as the other 8 that we mentioned earlier. But it is really going to be a holistic approach that has not been done before, and it's going to be truly cutting edge. So with that, I would like to pull up a graphic on how I'd like to end this whole show. And it's a graphic that goes back to the 50s, where we've all believed is the reality, and that is, and just like that, she breaks out of the worst virus of all, the Matrix. And I think that just kind of says the entire episode in a nutshell, because that's truly the virus that we all need to be concerned about, and that's the Matrix. And like I always say, week after week, if you change what you know, you change where you go. Change what you know, change where you go. And I think that's probably the most profound motto I could ever say on this show, besides my infamous one, which is keep looking up.